Thank you so much for inviting me here today. Honorable members, Bell, thank you for putting this together. Ms. Kyoko Gibson, it's really an honor to share this platform with you. I think I took the correct decision to be here. If you look at the high table here, I also note that it is the women in leadership. All I can say before I read my prepared speech is that this kind of events are important. It is amazing how we quickly forget. And if you look at the geopolitics today, there isn't any doubt in my mind that we are heading in the direction of yet another world war. And it is only by making people realize, by talking, that we do have the power to start what could be a disaster. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the Parliamentary Campaign to Nuclear Disarmament for inviting South Africa to be part of this parliamentary public meeting. We have just heard the personal testimony and harrowing account of Ms. Kyoko Gibson, an atomic bombing survivor of Hiroshima. Permit me to pay tribute to the victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Hibakusha. They've each suffered and witnessed the horrific suffering of others caused by nuclear weapons. It is regrettable that 80 years after nuclear weapons were first tested and used, these horrific weapons continue to pose an existential threat to humanity. The experiences of these individuals are a testament to the horrors of nuclear war. As the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu stated, and I would like to quote him, "Disarmament is not an option for governments to take up or ignore. It is a moral duty owed by them to their own citizens and to humanity as a whole. We must not await another Hiroshima or Nagasaki before finally mastering the political will to banish these weapons from global arsenals," unquote. Aptly, South Africa, for the reasons that you have described, being the only country that had developed and then voluntarily dismantled the nuclear weapons program, remains a strong proponent of disarmament and non-proliferation, and an ardent supporter of the world free from threats posed by weapons of mass destruction. The asymmetry of nuclear weapons states vis-a-vis non-nuclear weapon states is a relic of the past and contrary to the principle of the equality of states, a principle on which the United Nations incidentally is founded. States shall refrain from the use of force in their relations and should seek to resolve their dispute peacefully. South Africa holds the firm view that there are existing international mechanisms that should be used to hold nuclear armed and military dominant states accountable. The International Court of Justice is a clear example of such a mechanism. The court in 1996 delivered an advisory opinion on the threat of use of nuclear weapons and conduct that there are indeed circumstances under which the threat or use of nuclear weapons is prohibited. The court also concluded that there exists an obligation to pursue in good faith and bring to a conclusion negotiations leading to nuclear disarmament in all its aspects under strict and effective international control. The court's jurisdiction is being increasingly invoked as smaller states realize the value that the court may play as a great equalizer and a mechanism to ensure accountability. Therefore, whilst asymmetry remains, mechanisms that rebalance the scales remain ever relevant. Distinguished participant, South Africa has always emphasized the humanitarian consequence of the use of nuclear weapons, as well as the humanitarian imperatives that underpin our search for a world without the threat posed by the possession, use, and proliferation of nuclear weapons. For a majority of countries, the risk of the use of nuclear weapons and the scale of the humanitarian consequence that would follow make nuclear disarmament an urgent priority. Therefore, the total elimination of nuclear weapons and the legal binding assurances that they will never be produced again is the only guarantee that these weapons of mass destruction will never be used. These humanitarian consequences are also substantiated by new scientific evidence. This is growing body of research. There's a growing body of research that confirms the effects of nuclear detonation are much more severe, cascading, long-lasting, and complex than previously understood. They involve short and long-term damage to the environment, socio-economic and sustainable development, the global economy, food security, and health of current and future generations, including the disproportionate impact that nuclear weapons have on women and girls, including as a result of ionizing radiation, as well as on infants and children, given their particular vulnerability to the effects of nuclear weapons. We've heard all that from Kyoko Gibson this evening. South Africa is honored to be the president of the TPNW, and in this capacity would preside over the first review conference of the TPNW in 2026. The shared aspiration for a world free from the threat posed by nuclear weapons is espoused by an overwhelming majority of countries. This shared aspiration by the global majority culminated in the negotiation and adoption of the Treaty on the TPNW by several of UN member states in July 2017. TPNW states, NW states parties remain gravely concerned that 9 states between them still possesses arsenals of nuclear weapons that could destroy human civilization many times over. In this regard, we remain alarmed at international developments, which include increased rhetoric on the proliferation of nuclear weapons, intensifying reliance on nuclear deterrence in security doctrines, and on the ongoing possession of nuclear weapons. I think all that has been related by Kyoko Gibson this evening. There are serious concerns related to heightened geopolitical tensions, further expansion and modernization of nuclear arsenals, the increasing salience of nuclear weapons in military and security doctrines, including through security guarantees, the growing dangers of nuclear proliferation and potential devastating nuclear arms races demand immediate and decisive action from all of us. Consequently, from the legal perspective, it is important to reiterate that the TPNW, which is complementary to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, fills key remaining gap in international law regarding weapons of mass destruction by establishing a clear-cut prohibition of nuclear weapons, seeking also to stigmatize their possession, production, deployment, and use or threat of use. It must be stressed, I'm coming to an end. We are We reaffirm the need to build confidence among all members of the international community and to achieve and maintain a world free of nuclear weapons, which is global public good to the highest, and champion the unequivocal rejection of nuclear weapons, working relentlessly for their abolition. Distinguished participants, in a world where challenges persist in meeting basic human rights, human needs, the continued expenditure of vast financial resources for the modernization and expansion of nuclear weapons is indefensible. These funds should be redirected toward addressing pressing global challenges such as poverty, public health, and our efforts in achieving sustainable development goals. South Africa, together with the majority of non-nuclear armed states, stand united in our unwavering determination to confront escalating nuclear dangers. The complete verifiable and irreversible elimination of nuclear weapons is not just an aspiration, but an imperative for global security and survival of humanity. South Africa remains committed to working with all countries and civil society to achieve and realize this objective of a world free of nuclear weapons. I thank you for
Thank you so much for coming here tonight. What we'd like to do now is